Delver, and Death and Taxes Yorion. Death and Taxes on the right, Ronald Rodriguez. We are going to set up a prediction poll here. Quick one. Bomberman got there. I'll hand out channel points. We don't have deck lists for this, but this is a pretty typical blue-red Delver list. If you've seen Dave Kaplan play on the channel, you've seen these decks. And a Yorion Death and Taxes list similar to the ones that have been top-8ing like crazy over the weekend. Let's do a prediction poll. Who will win? Will it be Blue-Red Delver, Dave, or Death and Taxes, Ronal? We'll put 2 minutes on that, chat. And, all right, player shuffling up here. Again, this is a recap from yesterday at my local shop. Both players here with 3-0 and decided to play it out. See who can walk away with the most prizes. NYC Eternal Crew Matt for Dave. I dig it. Yorion getting put off to the side here. Side owner with questions for Force of Phil. Not sure if Force of Phil is still here. You should post that in the Discord, Side Norna. This is the deck Noodles Death and Taxes is supposed to beat. I agree. True Change threw some channel points down for Death and Taxes. Kaplan at 19 to fetch. And Mother of Runes to start the game for Ronal. Good start. Let's see if that resolves. Yep, it resolves. Mechanic Island, Dragon Ray's Channeler, Bolt, Mother of Runes, Surveil. And Brainstorm in the Yard. So I think 3 types now for Delirium. Thalia the play for Ronal. Pretty good. And a Bolt. It's Force of Will in the Yard. Still no Delirium. Ponder will give Delirium. If you are in the Discord, the commentary call in the Discord is available, and you can join me there if you'd like. Side Norna, thank you for 5 gift subs. I really do appreciate it, Side Norna. Flash that foil Garth for the camera. It's right here on my desk. There's the Garth that Side Norna sent me. Thank you, Side Norna. Thank you, Side Norna. Oh, somebody here. Oh, Cosmic Coil, what's up?
Hey, Chris.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Cool. I can't help but, be attracted like a moth to the flame when D&T is being played.
Fair enough. So what do you think of this start so far for Death and Taxes?
It feels very precarious. I mean, you clearly want... Mom helps just kind of set up all of your turn 2, turn 3, turn 4 players. And, the Sphere Labyrinth obviously looks like it's going to do something, but it's just so vulnerable to removal. And this is one of the things, actually, I really don't like about Sphere Labyrinth right now is Expressive just doesn't care about it. It has no effect. It's not drawing cards. So the primary draw engine of Delver right now just is unaffected by Sphere Labyrinth.
Yeah, that's true. People are liking these Yorion 80 card Death and Taxes lists at like as of this week almost. Um, what do
Yeah,
you think
it's
about that?
yeah, it saw play during the Oko, the sad days of Oko. Just because you need something over the top against fair like Bant decks. And I think now, I think what people, especially XJ Cloud, has identified is that Solitude is a hell of a card. And having a bit of a toolbox is really good. And something interesting about the deck, assuming this is more of a stock list, is you're running Leyline in the Void in the sideboard now instead of Rest in Peace, just
Hmm.
because the graveyard hate has to be really turn zero against so many decks. So it has a lot of interesting innovations. I don't necessarily think it helps this matchup that much, other than Solitude being good removal, but I think you're gaining a lot in kind of any matchups like Band Control that go longer. You have a ton of inevitability, which you maybe lack in just a 60 cards D&T.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I guess you become even. I don't know if the right word is mid range, but just more. Mm,
Yeah, I mean, you
just
have
prepared for a long game, I guess.
exactly. Like you were already kind of set up with Flicker Wisdom Recruiter the Guard, but now with Yurion itself, you can trade resources quite a bit. As long as you have something you're gaining value of with Yurion when it enters the battlefield, you're in really good shape. And it's also just a massive creature that blocks most of. I mean, doesn't block Murktide, but it blocks every other Delver threat well. Uh, so yeah, you're definitely doing that, but you're also giving up a little bit on your land disruption package just because you've got 20 more cards in your deck. So, you're not going to see Port as often, you're not going to see Wasteland as often. So in matchups where those are essential cards, you're not going to see it.
Yeah,
And I think part of it's just admitting that maybe those cards are not their best right now. If the primary Delver deck is blue red that runs an island and a mountain, then Wasteland is not as good as it when Grixis control or like Grixis Delver is the top Delver deck, where you want like 6 Wastelands in your deck. Um, so I
yeah,
can see why the change has been made. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think here the issue is going historically. D&T Delver is Dragon Rage Channeler is a real problem. Also, just because Delver it helps Delver filter so much to find the right cards for this matchup. Um, Even if it's not card advantage per se, there's it helps you find your bolts, your chain lightnings, whatever interaction you have is much easier to find. Although this is good, we're starting to kind of clean up the board a little bit. Um, but this still feels like we're at 5. We're kind of a swing and a bolt away from dying. Uh, this is how it feels right now to play D&T against Delver, where you're just kind of on knife's edge the whole time. Um,
yeah, yeah. Being in bolt range is not the best right now without, you know, I mean, Stoneforge into Batterskull is a couple of turns away at best.
Yeah, and it's not, at this stage, it's just not enough. The game used to be, this is like going back 3 or 4 years ago, it literally was just a Stoneforge versus Delver race because they had no way to interact with whatever equipment and germ you played. So it's just could I resolve an attack with Batterskull before Delver kills me?
Right.
Um, Here, it's a bit riskier. You just have so many threats that fly over. Having a Batterskull doesn't even let you really block on the ground like it would a Pyromancer. So it's hard to set up. Obviously, here you're on actually getting that value, right? We flicker the apparition, but doesn't matter. Bolt kill you.
Yeah, Lightning Bolt is a good magic card.
It's a hell of a card. Uh, and again, it's interesting to debate. Like you haven't, even though you've gone up to 80 cards, you haven't gone up to 5 Stoneforge effects. So
Right.
those type of cards are just going to be a little bit less likely to draw than if you're on 60 cards.
Yeah, and just to answer chat, yes, this is Yurion taxes. Um, Chileth pointing out he had Cauldron in hand and enough mana to cast it. Not sure.
Yeah, it was close. I don't even know if that really. I mean, I guess it could have made a difference. Yeah, I guess if you just faded the bolt for one more turn. Um, how do you feel about this? Have you played any Delver recently, or have you just been on solely goblins?
I've just been on goblins recently, yeah, but that might change actually for next week. I might go back to playing some Delver or maybe a blue pile. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What? Why do you ask?
Well, I'd just be curious because again, I think this matchup is less in D&T's favor than it used to be, and I'd just be curious to know the Delver side of it.
Mm,
Because Delver is again the when Delver only had 8 threats you cared about, that was way easier to deal with things like Flicker Wisp and to disrupt. Whereas now there's so many threats. It feels like you just run out of ways to interact with them, and so I know I always feel like I'm way behind unless I'm on the play. I mean, this is obviously good, and we didn't get a bolt turn 2, so or turn 1, so this is about as good as can be, as long as David doesn't have any kind of disruption for the germ token. If he does, though, then we're in bad shape.
yeah, I'm sure, and both players knew what decks they were on because this is the last round of the night. But I would assume Dave would keep a hand that's good against Death and Taxes. Like
Yeah,
I would bet he has Bolt in hand or something.
yeah. Both
But
here would be obviously awesome.
maybe
Um,
not Bolt actually because he would have just bolted the Stoneforge. But still,
yeah, let's see, because yeah, I think I guess the other way this matchup has changed is you just feel so much less advantage when you lack Vile. I mean, Vile's obviously always been good in the matchup, but um, I mean, here, yeah, Stoneforge is gone. We have a Batter Skull in hand. I guess we're lucky that Delver didn't flip, which is great,
yep.
but it still doesn't feel wonderful. I guess the best thing we can do here is like Apparition, one of the Delvers, and then or Swords one of the Delvers, and maybe Apparition the other one the next turn. So we're not out of it, but you know,
Sanctum Prelate is pretty good.
yeah, it seems that way, but a Braid really messes with Sanctum Prelate. Um, and I'm sure Braid's in the deck because of things like Batter Skull.
Was that a gut shot on top? Did you catch that?
No, I couldn't see. It was a little
Yeah, it
blurry.
was
If
a
it
little
was,
blurred, right?
this is a great Sanctum Prelate, but I guess now we need Flicker Wisp so we can flicker one of these guys, the Delvers, and then block one of them. Um, but we're starting to need very specific answers here. Two Delvers is always hard.
Yeah. Another card that's like so good in Delver decks right now, and I know it just dies to Swords of Plowshares, but Murktide Regent just makes the game like so much faster. I feel
Oh God! Oh,
like if you get the
absolutely.
dragon
Yeah.
down and it's not answered, you just here's the dragon. You just win the game.
Right. And then Delver asks a lot of questions of you, and often, as we hear, it's like like 3 threats to remove for D&T is a lot. As I said before, maybe the line was like flicker with a Delver, block the other Delver, stabilize a little bit.
Yeah,
But with Murktide and 2 Delvers, it's really hard to figure out. We've also turned off swords on our side with
right,
Prolate, I mean, on one. So, you know, we've we've got our work cut out for us if you're D&T in this position. And I think that's kind of the issue is things like, Thalia really would not have disrupted the start from Dave.
right,
Mostly creatures. If we were wastelanding, we would be down on our own development. It's really hard when Delver runs more creatures than you run removal.
right. Exactly, exactly. Um,
But yeah,
yeah.
now we have to start getting lucky. That I guess we have a little bit of life to work with, but again, this seems precarious. Uh,
So Chilith in chat is saying Prelate is actually supposed to come out versus Blue Red Delver post board. What do you think about that?
well, it's I think with Murktide now, your only removal from Murktide other than blanking it and then blocking it is Swords Plowshares.
Hmm.
I think part of it might be what you're running in your board. If you're on 60 cards, you'll still see Path to Exile in some lists, in which case I would definitely make board Prelate out. Prelate is at its best against combo matchups. It's,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, there's no way Dave did not board in like 2 Braids. So you get set on one, you've locked yourself out of both Vile and Swords. And sure, you've locked Dave out of some things, but Expressive Iteration's a 2-drop, a Braid's a 2-drop. Um, it's not lights out. by any means. And again, if it's stopping you from getting rid of this Murktide, that's a real big problem.
My understanding with these Yorion Death and Taxes lists, though, is that they don't really sideboard much at all against Delver. Their entire sideboard is dedicated to combo hate.
Yeah,
Ley
you're supposed
lines,
to be in good
deafening
shape, but
silences. What's that?
I said I agree. You're supposed to be in good enough shape without boarding that much, but you can see how Delver can just steamroll you with all these creatures.
Yeah.
There was no they didn't ponder, there was no development. It was just and there's the Abrade. So even if we got Batterskull in play, it's gonna blow it up. Um, so yeah, I agree with that idea that Prowlet against Delver at this point is just not really that optimal.